What's up guys? Today I have a different video for you all. Something I don't see often in the Final Fantasy 14 community. I'm gonna rank all the fights of Savage in Stormblood. That's right, all of them. First off, I will not be comparing the fights to Ultimate, Heavensward, A Realm Reborn, or any Extreme Trials, because I feel that things have evolved since then, so there's no really need to compare them. So I'm judging these fights based on what I find fun, which in my opinion is difficulty in most cases, although as you'll see with one specific example, that is not always the case. So chances are it's completely different to everyone else's list. That said, we're entitled to our opinions, so feel free to share your rankings in the comments. Secondly, I'm also judging the fights based on their position in a tier. For example, I will not be saying something like Alt-right is no as hard as Halicarnassus, which makes it a bad fight. I will be judging them on how I feel a first, second, third, fourth and fifth fight should be in a tier respectively. That's right, I said 5, because I'm counting the first half and second half of the fourth fight as different fights, as they really just feel like they should be. And lastly, this goes without saying, but yeah, this is my opinion. So, like I said earlier, everyone's will most likely differ at some point. Oh, and while I'll try to judge a fight based on all roles, I am a Dragoon main, and that is what I've beaten every single fight as. So, my opinion is based mainly on a melee's job experience. Well, without further delay, let's get right into this list with number 15, as you can already tell, Demon Bloody Chaddernook. Alright, there we go. Fucking Demon Chaddernook. Before anything, 3 of these fights will be showing the normal version, as I do not have clips of the Savage from them. I could have went and got clips, but that would have just taken too long. Not that it matters in this case though, as this fight is extremely boring. It's literally just normal mode, but slower. As a melee, you're just sitting there, hitting the boss, doing absolutely nothing aside from occasionally going into the paint to go into fucking airplane mode or whatever it is. And even then you can cheese that and people will just skip through it anyway, so whatever. At least in the normal mode though, the boss changes the paintings faster, so you're actually using them faster instead of sitting there or waiting for something to hit you. And the reason I rank this as my least favourite Savage is simply because it's the second tier and the second fight. This should not be a dummy fight. This should actually be the main gatekeeper of the rest of the tier. But as you know, this is not the case. In fact, Phantom Train is a better gatekeeper than this thing. You could literally skip this thing and learn nothing from it and go straight into Guardian. That's how easy this fight is, unfortunately. The only thing I can say is its DPS check on release was at least a little bit tough. But that doesn't matter when you don't have to even move from the boss. Now, I understand that healers and ranged DPS actually have to paint more than 3 or 5 times. However, the Typhoon mechanic is exactly the same as in normal. You literally just blow one easterly away and boom, you're safe. And the Siren painting, the main mechanic, only appears once in the entire fight. It can be done with just 2 people, despite being aimed for 4. You can grab 2 paints on one side with one guy and 2 paints on the other with the other, and then you'll be done. So that's my problem with Demon Chaddernook. As you'll see in the later entries, this fight really brings nothing to the table, apart from trialing your static members on how they can do it with DPS on a dummy fight, which isn't exactly amazing in most cases, as you want to trial them in a fight that isn't literally just hitting the boss. Especially if you're trialing them for ultimate. Alright, on to the next one. Alt-right. A cool mount, yeah, but a terrible Savage fight too. This one will not take too long. This fight suffers the exact same issues as Demon Chaddernook, and I am not going to pad out video time explaining the exact same things. Though at least here, almost all the mechanics are the same for everyone, aside from the tank buster for the tank, but everyone has to do the exact same of nothingness. So at least there's that. This is another example though of a normal mode being practically the same as a Savage. This entire fight is in, out, shake it all about. Although don't shake it off, because back then shake it off did not do fuck all, it was actually practically useless, so don't do that. It was really forgettable, and I actually kind of forgot half the fight. If I just have to remember it, I don't even need to, because I just did normal, that's the fight. The only remarkable mechanic, however, in Savage is halfway into the fight, you have to slide to the edge to dodge the boss's frontal line attack, and I thought that part was pretty cool. It might be the only reason I put this over Demon Shadow now. Aside from that though, is yeah, another dummy fight, probably with about the exact same reason to actually do this fight, apart from your weekly loot. Well, you're probably wondering though why I'm putting this above Chaddernook instead of behind it, considering what I just said, or maybe not, because I did give it a little bit of praise. Well, the reason is this is the first Savage of the entire expansion. I mean, it's not a good introduction, but at least gets a pass for being the first. I do think that Catastrophe was a better first fight, although it's technically the second, so I guess it wasn't the first. And another thing I'll praise it for is Enrage is fucking funny, because it's just the entire floor is filled with fireballs and you think that there might be an escape somewhere and then boom, you're dead. Well, there's not really much to say here though. You can see the video, that is normal mode. That is basically Savage. It has AoEs, that's all, that's the only difference. Now we will move on to number 13, which I personally feel is the most annoying fight in Stormblood Savage. Which is kind of a thing because of my name and, you know, spoiler alert I guess. So, we'll move off straight on to number 13. Let's go. Yup, number 13 is Exdeath. Anyone who has done this fight knows exactly what I mean by it being annoying. This fight, I really feel so sorry for the healers of this fight, and a certain future fight, but this fight mainly. Server tech says no one's best friend. Machinist mains know that. Thankfully though, this fight is only 4 minutes long, but oh, does Exdeath make you fucking hate those 4 minutes. Starts off pretty basic with some just dual cast mechanics. You move in, you move out, you spread apart, double tank busters, whatever. But not long after, the healers have to feel the full force of server techs. They have to heal everyone to full for this mechanic called White Hole. Sounds pretty easy. Well, it kind of probably is, but if they don't heal everyone to full, and usually people who don't get hit to full are the tanks, you get petrified, or if you're even very low health, you'll just get instantly fucking killed. And in some cases, petrify on a tank might as well just be death, especially for the first black hole mechanic. However, that's only something healers have to deal with, you know. It's not too bad. Like, everyone can help with it, but it's mainly a healing mechanic. This next mechanic I'm going to talk about, which really brings down the fight, Black Hole. Everyone hates Black Hole. You say someone who's done this fight, and find someone who doesn't hate Black Hole for me. If you don't hate Black Hole, you better tell me that you don't hate Black Hole, because I want to find someone who doesn't hate Black Hole, because I hate Black Hole. Everyone hates Black Hole. That sounds a bit racist. I don't know if it was the common strat of what Pugs did, or whatever. I have no idea why it was such a bad mechanic, but a combination of fire explosions on all the DPS forcing you to keep away from people, and the completely random spots for black holes to even spawn, which can even be underneath them because of his bloody cape, making it hard to really see him. With some of these black holes as well though, actually end up following the healers and the tanks, which can cause a big issue, because there's literally a possibility of there being absolutely no escape without mega shields to keep you alive from 2 fire explosions, or just killing someone else or yourself. There's no escape sometimes. Not every time. I won't say it was too common, but it happened enough for me to notice. So yeah, Black Hole alone is, in my opinion, the worst mechanic in this entire expansion. And this entry here, this entry isn't Exdeath. No, this entry is Black Hole. Alright. Number 13, Black Hole. Because I hate this fucking mechanic. It completely destroys this fight for me. It ruins it. If the other two didn't have egregious problems of being too easy, this would be at number 15. Because this fight is the one top fight I was talking about, which is hard for the completely wrong reason. And it's bullshit. However though, there's one thing that brings it ahead. And there's a reason I'm panting up the time on this one, is so that the video can show you the amazing phase transition at the end. Yeah. I might go silent on it, but who cares? It's awesome. It's the best phase transition in the entire game. Actually, apart from maybe Ultimate Bahamut's phase transition with the Phoenix Snap. But nah, this beats that. This is the best phase transition in the game. They'll be hard pressed to beat it. And yes, I know, my name's Galaf, and Galaf for Farmers Fact, blah blah blah, whatever. That doesn't mean anything, because clearly I hate this fight. Anyway, let's move on to number 12. Probably the most controversial one, because I hear a lot of people like this one. Simply though, I'm a melee main, and I hate RNG, and this fight hates both of those things, so I'll see you on number 12. Let's go. Omega M and Omega F. So this fight has some cool ideas. I mean, you're fighting two bosses at once. That's pretty cool. You don't usually do it often, so I kind of like it. I mean, it's not unique. I mean, Alexander 8 Savage has done it. Oh, and Norm, I'm pretty sure, but whatever. But yeah. I mean, I did say I wasn't going to compare them, but who gives a shit? I mean, I'm not comparing the actual fight, just comparing the idea of the fight, which is fine. So this is the first fight this entire expansion that isn't just reused from somewhere else, which I think is a major plus. My biggest problem with this entire expansion, not even just the raid, this entire expansion, is that almost everything in it is reused from an old Final Fantasy, and that really brings it down, in my opinion. And I'm saying this as a Final Fantasy fan, okay? I mean, you could just check. I guess you can't check my channel. Whatever. I'm a Final Fantasy fan. That's what you need to know. So, the fact that they're reusing it, I should be happy about, but I think I want Final Fantasy 14 to stand on its own two legs. I mean, I don't want to remember Final Fantasy 14 as the Final Fantasy that was all the Final Fantasies, because it wasn't. Anyway, let's get on to the actual fight. So the entire first phase of this fight is pretty basic. Nothing too bad for anyone, really, unless you're with pugs who insist on weird fire positions, but I mean, that's besides the point. It's not until the number mechanic later in the fight that you realise how much RNG on melee classes there is. I mean, the first phase of this fight, you don't need to worry about. You can see that the hardest part is probably spreading at the beginning and hoping he doesn't jump away to the wrong person, which I guess might be the first RNG here. Yeah, it is. I kinda just forgot about it, but whatever. So, once you do the first phase, and they split apart and all that, that's when the first real RNG comes into play. So, what happens is, you get these numbers on your head, and the way to do the mechanic is super easy. You literally just, if you have even numbers, you stand next to the boss at the start, and if you have odd, you run to the complete other side. The problem is that if you got even, you have plenty of time to get a couple of GCDs in, prepping you for the rest of the fight. If you have to run away, as a melee, you literally have to run practically as soon as you get your numbers on, unless you're like halfway through a GCD, you might be able to greet another one. But yeah, that's the problem with that. And you might think, okay, well, yeah, it's bad, but the mechanic only happens twice in the fight, so sure it adds up a little, but not enough to really be too much of a problem. Yeah, that's true. However, the main mechanics of this fight, Synthetic Sword and Synthetic Shield, also have RNG on them. I will go through them like this. On synthetic blades, if you have female, you are gimped, because when you have to go to a corner, you cannot get to the female to attack them. You lose at least 1 GCD for doing this. If you have male, but your tank doesn't pull male to the corner, again, you lose at least 1 GCD. This adds up. Synthetic shield, if you have male and you are not chosen to be hit by the first attack, you lose GCDs because you cannot run to the person he jumps to, as you have to stack in the middle or people will die. 6 people have to be there, and if more than one person is going to greet GCDs, you're again screwed. Although I guess people do try to stack on his behind sometimes, but the most common strat is to stack in the middle, I guess. Bad uptime. There you go. And then he will also jump to somewhere else after, which doesn't really matter because you lose like a GCT there, not too bad. So that's an entire phase of bad RNG if you get male for that mechanic. So that's a big problem there for melees. Luckily though, after all that's done, it's literally just turned into a dummy fight because Square Enix kind of screwed up a little bit here. And, well, maybe they didn't screw up per se, but it's just how the game mechanics work. So the entire last part of the fight, the MNF do a bunch of LB attacks on you. And you're supposed to handle them in a way like aim the arrow away, drop the flare far away, or something like that. Like, yeah. However, if you tank LB the first one, and you don't shield too much, then you get another LB straight away, because they do it twice. So you can tank LB the first one, and tank LB the second one. Yeah, you can completely ignore the final mechanics of the entire fight, literally just because you LB. That is something that Square Enix really needs to work on for future fights, because while I think it's funny, it's a bad in fight design terms, because there's no reason you should be able to cheese that. I know that Byakko Extreme had this as well, however that was just one tiny part of the entire fight. This is an entire final phase, and it's a final Savage fight as well. There's no reason this should be happening. We haven't seen something like this from this entire expansion, aside from Byakko in here. The only time we ever seen tank LBs be a real strategy has been in Zervan. That was the only time before this that I remember tank LBs being a real strategy. However, I could be wrong. I guess I shouldn't really talk about that. Anyway, this isn't a terrible fight. It's okay, it has some cool ideas, and it's really painful for melee classes. This includes tanks. And the whole tank LB thing just kind of ruins the fight, technically. So I have to knock it down pegs because of that, unfortunately. Although it has its own cool music as well, though, I'll give it that. And the final Omega, the next one, is also got his own unique music. Oh, and I forgot to mention the face transition. It's bad. Alright, I'm not gonna lie, it's bad. Compared to Exdeath and a certain other fight coming up, is bad, because it's literally just he turns into a puddle and then morphs into a big thing, and that's it. There's no cool cutscene or anything. It's literally just that. Hell, if I can pad out this time in here of talking, you'll probably end up seeing it. If not, I'll just cut towards it like I did with Exdeath. No big deal. Yeah, I'm recording this on the fly. Who cares? Number 11, though, which is the next fight we're going to talk about, is another fight with a great concept, but it has a fatal flaw that knocks its ranking down quite a bit. However, the reason why it's above is that its fatal flaw affects everyone and not just melees. And so I feel like it is more equality because I'm a melee. Yes, I'm weak, okay? And also, I just like it a little bit more. I don't really know why. I think it's pretty cool with some of its mechanics. Anyway, I'll see you there. Alright, bye. Yep, Guardian.
This fight is cool. I love his concept. He uses a lot of different moves, patterns, mechanics. It's awesome. I honestly think that most of them are pretty damn cool. I mean, there's nothing bad about uptime anywhere, nothing RNG-like in that sense. I mean, he even uses a mechanic from a 24-man raid at one point, which is pretty cool. I'm pretty sure nothing else has been like that. If you wonder what I'm talking about the spinny head thing from Raubahn. Yeah, misdirection. That thing's cool. I hated it, but now I love it. You're probably wondering though, I did say there was a big flaw. The one flaw that I spoke of is that this fight outstays its welcome so bloody long. Seriously, this fight goes on at least a couple of minutes longer than it should be, and it just drags on and it hurts to play the fight. I mean, nowadays if you go in at like eye level 400, you kill it fucking way too fast, but I guess that's just how it went. All they had to do was cut out the second phase Air Force, because all you do there is literally just kill your ad. There's no missiles, no nothing. You just kill your ad, blow up your bombs. First phase Biblio they should have also cut out, because there's literally just pads and you stand on them and that's it. It's literally like 20 seconds at most, and that's that entire phase done. They should have cut that out because that doesn't need to be there. If they cut both those out, that would cut the time down a bit. I believe they could have shortened first phase ultras a little bit as well. They could have not had a big gap between ink and technicals. That would have been nice. Second phase ultras is fine. But yeah. So if the fight wasn't so long though, I would have given it the number 7 spot. But it just took so bloody long. I don't have much else to say about this fight aside from that it takes so bloody long to kill. But I guess this is how it happens. That's just how it ended up. Guess can't change it. So let's go talk about some of the mechanics so you understand what I'm talking about. So you have Dadaluma, which as you could probably see, you have to stand on some of these ball hangs and explode. Fairly standard stuff. The Dadaluma ad's pretty cool. You have to make sure the laser points west of the arena and no one else gets hit by it. And there's a bunch of bleed, the healers hate it, it's awesome. And then you kill them. Easily done. In fact, second phase Dadaluma is how it should have been. They cut out the ad because they knew it'd be too much time. But in the first phase Dadaluma, you actually have to kill the ad. Then you have Biblio, which in first phase is literally just standing on pads, as you can probably tell. That's pretty boring. And the second phase, it's standing on pads and then you actually have to kill the ad, and yeah, it's pretty hard. And that part's pretty cool, although I feel like he could have at least used one of his circle moves or donut moves, but whatever. We have Air Force, which is just get out of melee range for one little bit and then go back in. That's fine, but then he has a bunch of missiles, which by the way, with latency, the missile hitboxes are fucking horrible. Ugh. Probably the worst part about the fight, really. I know I didn't mention it before because it's just one tiny thing. And then you just run to your ad and kill them. There's nothing really much there apart from maybe the healers have to click on their bombs. But that's all you have to do there. And then there's ultras, where people really fuck up kind of often because you have to spread for ink, otherwise you die. Although nowadays if you went in there you don't die, because you can actually stack like 3 on top of each other, but whatever. And then you just have to dodge AoEs and kill ultras. There's nothing really special about any of them. However, there's one unique mechanic to Savage, and that is Virus Mode. It's not really unique because it was all the way back at the beginning of A Realm Reborn. That's how old this mechanic has been, pretty much. All you have to do as a melee is pass this thing called Rot to the other person, and then you get knocked back, and then you just keep passing it until the phase is over. That's all it is. In the misdirection, you just have to dodge a laser and get to the southern corner. And that's practically the entire fight. The problem is that first phase and second phase are practically the exact same, but a tiny bit changed, and it takes too long. At least though, well actually I was going to say it's outrageous cool, but the only thing cool about it is its name. It was like Extermination Protocol or something. It's like, oofed, I'm doing. But that's it. I've got not much more to say about it apart from it's a cool arena, cool boss, and way too long. So, number 10. This was an odd case. Some really love this fight, and some really hate it. I think I'm a bit closer to the hate side, but as you can tell, it's definitely not the worst. I mean, all these fights I've talked about, I think are worse than this fight, but I guess there were some latency and PS4 issues that come up with this fight. And if that didn't spoil it for you then, well, I guess you'll just have to find out. See you there. Phantom Drain Eye. It's a simple fight, so I will not spend too much time on this one. In my opinion, this is the hardest of the 3 starter fights, to be honest with you. Alter Right is a non-factor in Chaos, while like this one, isn't much different from normal. The Chaos really just is normal without AoEs, to be honest, and like 2 differences, which, don't get me wrong, it's obviously a better fight, otherwise it would be above this one, below this one, whatever. Works both ways, I guess. But it doesn't make it harder just because it's ahead. Anyway, as you can tell, I'm not a huge fan of this fight. It's not great. It's basically the fight which is a combination of all the things I've talked about in the other fight, apart from the whole length thing. Actually, it does outstay its welcome, so never mind. It has all of it. It's another fight where you're waiting for things to happen like Chadwick, while simultaneously getting ruined by RNG like M&F, and not to mention has a stupid skip as well like M&F. What do you know? Amazing. Saying all these things will make you think it's the worst fight, but while it does do all these things, the other fights take them more to an extreme than this one. So, kinda like Red Mage in that regard. The old Red Mage, not the new one. The new one's not really a jack of all trades, so whatever. This fight does have some positives though. Its arena is pretty damn unique. It's a fucking rectangle in a fucking game where every arena is a square of a circle. Almost every arena in this game is a square and circle, but this is a rectangle, so it gets a plus just for that. I actually think it's the only fight in the entire Savage that isn't a square or a circle, which is weird now that I think about it. Anyway, the other thing is the pushy ghost mechanic. That was unexpected for me, and it was pretty cool the first time seeing it, even if I died. And also I liked elusive jumping through it that one time. It never worked any other time, only once. It was fun. We wiped straight after. And the sound design, which I've not spoke much of, is actually really great on this fight. Guardian has okay sound design as well, but I really like the sound design in this fight because the train sounds are pretty damn awesome, and so are some of the ghost sounds. And while this isn't sound design, I like the fact that the background moves. I haven't spoke much about the backgrounds of most fights here. They're nothing super special. I don't think most backgrounds are amazing. I think Heavensward did them a lot better, but this one has a good background because it moves, and I would say that Guardian has a pretty good background as well. If you've not noticed, in the background of every fight they have a common theme of these weird floaty things because they're obviously simulations. I thought that was a nice detail, to be honest, which I don't know why I'm talking about here because this is the one fight I don't think actually does that. So, oops. Unfortunately, everything else about this fight is a latency-hating RNG mess. The ghost hitboxes, like on Ghost March, just don't feel right, at least not playing from the UK to the American lands. It just feels off, and it doesn't click, and it makes greeding GCDs a lot harder, which you could say is my fault, but I'm not saying that, so whatever. And I did like the different ways of handling meteors. The meteors are pretty cool. It didn't feel weird that you could do a tank at the front and a healer at the back. And it didn't feel weird that you could tank swap and put both meteors at the back. It just felt natural to do one or the other, whatever your team felt better doing. And I thought that was a very good thing to have. I'm not sure if they intended it like that, but it worked and they never fixed it, so yes. But I would have moved this up a spot if it did not have one problem, and that is halfway through the fight, you all have to go into different shaped ghosts. The red ghosts for the DPS, the big fat ghosts for the tanks, and the wee midget ghosts for the healers. It was pretty cool. However, with almost every job with a burst, you could skip this entire mechanic with one ghost. You just have a warrior go in and then a release, or a ninja and do something. I don't know because I never did it, because PS4 and UK latency does not let me do it. That's the one thing I will say, is you actually have to have a good load time to do this skip, otherwise you can't do it. It seems that most groups had this good load time, so I guess that doesn't even matter. Anyway, aside from that, there is not much more to say. It's a pretty basic fight, and it only really falls behind the next fight due to the RNG and the phase skips. Speaking of the next fight, Medcart Armor. This one's a weird one. Apparently everyone hates this fight. I'm not really too sure why, but to me the only real bad experience I ever have is with latency, which isn't the fight's fault, and people really just not paying the tiniest bit of attention, which I don't really know how you couldn't, because the only thing that requires attention is halfway through the fight and people still fuck it up. But I actually think the actual fight is pretty fun. If not a little easy, it is a bit too easy in my opinion. If you bring it down to the basics, it's not really anything special, but still pretty fun, and you can't jump off the side, which I guess I'll mark as a downside for wipe purposes. And the music, dare I say it, I actually kind of like the music, but I've always liked the music since Keeper of the Lake. I've kind of waited for the orchestral mode for a while. I mean, it's not exactly my favourite, and if I had to say, it's probably my least favourite music of the entire Omega Raid set, but it's still good. And like, the fight isn't special or anything, which is why it's so low on my list. It doesn't teach you too much. I mean, it teaches you more than Demon Shadownook, but I take a non-special fight over one that just doesn't piss me off, or doesn't deserve the title of Savage. I mean, I think Avascape in general has difficulty done just right compared to the Sigmascape and some of the early Deltascapes. And I'm only talking about the new generation of Savage here, not the old generation. The new generation is Creator, Delta, Sigma and Alpha, I would say. And Medcart Armor isn't really an exception. He is difficult. He's, compared to Catastrophe and Chaddernook, this fight is way harder compared to those two. Well, okay, maybe not Catastrophe, but Chaddernook definitely. Everything's harder than Chaddernook. Fucking Alter Voight's harder than Chaddernook, alright? So it's got that going for it, and you know me. Well, you don't know me, but now you do. Difficulty and fun most of the time equal the same thing for me. There are exceptions, as I talked about with Exdeath, but for the most part, I love the difficulty in fights. That's what makes me feel good when I beat them. And I don't know why I'm talking about this, to be honest, but I am. I just don't have much to say about this fight, to be honest with you, aside from the fact that I don't understand why people don't like it too much. I do have a problem with the fight though. I'm not gonna lie, I do have a problem with the fight. And that is, the main mechanic throughout the whole fight is his wee spinny things. He does 4 different patterns, but they're the most basic AoE patterns ever, which are in, out, and 2 different crosses. Like, wow. Why can't we have one that does like fucking Garuda shrieks or something? That would be amazing, wouldn't it? Like lightning bolts coming down or something? That would be awesome. Shit like that should have been what his spins did, at least in Savage. Or at least his 4th spin should have done something, not just an alternate cross. And 3 of those fights, 3 of those spins, you see in normal anyway. So you can even just practice what you do in normal and bring it into Savage, but with AoE markers in normal for what your range can be. And the 4th one, like I said, is nothing special. It's literally just the same but turned around. So you really don't learn anything there. And if you've done like fights like Bahamut or Nidhogg, this fight is literally nothing new. Nothing's new about it. Exaflares, Byakko has Exaflares, Ultimate Bahamut has an Exaflares, Neo Exdeath technically has Exaflares, but they're a bit weirder. Exaflares are everywhere, and Akmorn is Exaflares. Shinryu, I don't know why I said Akmorn is Exaflares, I meant Akmorn is Nidhogg. Shinryu has the Akrise. There's just nothing here. Ice drops, maybe? What? Like, the only thing I can say is the Fire Breath Pass is the only thing in this entire fight that is unique. The only thing. Even does the dives from Nidhogg. This fight is more Nidhogg than it is Medcart Armor, which is weird. Whatever. Still, it's behind Catastrophe and Chaos for the reason that I literally just said, is that is nothing new. However, speaking of, we're going to talk about the next fight right here, and while I may not remember too much about it, it's still better than the fights I've mentioned so far, so let's get straight into that one. Catastrophe. Well, this is not a special fight at all, so this is actually going to be the fastest entry in this entire list, I think, unless I manage to not make it the fastest entry by doing shit like this. Honestly, it's just a fun wee fight. There's nothing interesting about it. You go up, you go down, you get flung to the side. It's fun, wee. I don't know why I like it so much. The other fights are more interesting and more involved, including the ones I've mentioned before, but this one I just feel like is better. I actually think I've done the stupid duty action thing, which I hate, better than any other fight in this entire expansion, so that at least it's got that going. And all you do is just press it and go up. And I'm glad they took that out of 011 Savage when we get there. Anyway, the only bad thing I'll say about this fight that is really bad is the server ticks with the blue AoEs. And if they're purple, well then, sorry, but I'm colorblind. That puts you down, and yeah, blue puts you down. That's why I'm going to call him blue. I'm not colorblind. No, I'm not colorblind. Anyway, other than that, it's just a normal fight. It's just normal mode, but pulling no punches. Like the AoEs, there's none of. I think I don't really remember. I've not done it. Literally not done it in over a year. So I don't have a video of it because I didn't start recording until New Exdeath. Actually, I think I recorded Telekinesis, but whatever. We'll see when we get there. And it has an awesome Enrage. It's literally just Alter-Royce Enrage, which is awesome in its own right. But with its own circle AoE things, which you might be able to see in normal mode, but they usually come quite late into the fight for normal mode standards. So yeah, like I said, the fight isn't particularly interesting, but it also has no quote-unquote raiding sins, as I'm going to call them, like the other fights did. So number 7, however, is not much different in this regard. It's not exactly egregious or in any way. It doesn't commit any raiding sins, but it isn't exactly interesting either. It's just a little bit fun. The only reason it's ahead is like by the most minuscule amount, in that I think the music's better. Speaking of the music, if you wonder why I'm using Apoplexy, it's because I don't want to use the same music more than once, and I can only think of 2 versions of the Fierce Battle theme, and I'm going to use the other one for a later fight. So yeah, that's why. I don't know why I explained it, but yeah, that's why it's there. And I don't think I'm going to be talking about Construct 7 anytime soon, apart from the fact that his mechanic should be in Savage because it's awesome. And don't tell me that you're bad at maths and can't do it, because I'm bad at maths and I can do it. So there you go. It's not maths. It's just minus. It's okay. Whatever. Why am I talking about that here? Because this fight has nothing going on in it. That's why I'm talking about here. But don't worry. I have a little more to say about the final 6 fights, which
by process of elimination, you can already guess which fights they are and how they're all final fights in some regard, apart from a couple of them, but whatever. Well, maybe not, because I didn't talk about one fight. Spoiler alert! Chaos. So, first up, I'm going to start with the biggest negative right off the bat. Why the hell, Square Enix, did you not use the superior final battle music for the Final Fantasy 1 remake? I understand why, but it pisses me off because as much as Soken did a good job with the Final Fantasy 1 battle theme remix he did, this fight would have been amazingly better if they had used the final boss theme and made an amazing remix of it, because it just, I don't know why, I like it. You're hearing it right now because I think it's way better. Not to take away from Soken's job, he probably would have done an immense awesome job with this theme instead, but whatever. You know, I was so hopeful for it because the description of Alpha Savage, if you go look at it right now, it says something like, something feels off this time with the tune, which made me think every fight would have like this extra phase or something, and Chaos would have this extra phase where he gets stronger, and this would be the music that would play or something, but it meant nothing, really. It might have been something in the cutscene that meant barely anything, but no, it meant nothing, and I was extremely disappointed in that. Not to mention the only fucking phase transition we ever did get was piss poor anyway, so thanks Square Enix! Would have been an amazing way of ending this expansion's raid to have like a 4 boss gauntlet of great proportions, I guess, but they didn't think of that, so whatever. So, the mechanics of this fight, you're probably wondering, not the music. Well, they're nothing real to note. It's literally just normal without AoEs. There's 3 differences, and I'm going to talk about them. The Earth phase, because he has 4 different phases, the Earth phase has the DPS have to get hit by the longitude and latitude lasers twice, so that they go to 1 HP to cleanse the debuff, while the heals and tanks have to dodge and they have to heal to full. And I think that's actually pretty interesting. Cyclone Phase has something similar. Cyclone Phase has the DPS look away from Chaos, or look towards the tornado, whichever you would prefer to say. And the healers and tanks do the opposite, they look at Chaos. As a melee DPS, I'm jealous of them, but yes, I think these non-raid wipe mechanics are pretty interesting, and I know before I said I prefer equality, but I think this is honestly the more objective way of thinking about it. So yeah, the third part I'm going to talk about is the orb phase, and it's really just the only part of the fight that is any sort of trouble, and all you have to do is combine basically everything you learned in all 4 of the elemental phases to perform basically a series of mechanics in like 10 seconds. It's super simple, honestly, but it's cool, and there's like 5 million different strats, and all of them are bad except from like 2, which is DPS out Cardinals and Line Strat. You fucking tell me DPS is better and I'm going to slap you. Because no, it's got less room forever and less uptime, okay? Line Strat is the superior one, so everybody learn like Line Strat. Especially you melee DPS, you get it easy. I can confirm because I'm melee DPS. We look out for each other. And by look out for each other, I mean complain about all the samurais who do 3k DPS. Anyway, the best part I love about this fight is that you learn the whole fight in like a couple of pulls. You literally learn it all in a couple of pulls, because he will use one series of mechanics, which will be, and it's always predictable. He will use one series on one pull, and the next pull he might use the other ones. So for example, your first pull he might start off with Blaze, and after a few pulls you'll have learned Blaze and Cyclone because he always does it in that order. And on another pull he'll do Tsunami and Earthquake, and then you'll learn them in that order. And then by the time you get Orb phase down, you just do what one he didn't do at the start, and it's exactly the same as if he did do it at the start. Like, he doesn't get powerful like in Guardian where he changes the mechanics for the second phase or anything. No, it's the exact same, which I think is cool for a first Savage fight. That is how they should do it, I think. This is probably the best way of doing the first Savage fight. It's not the hardest, like I said, Phantom Train is harder in my opinion, but it's infinitely more interesting, Phantom Train. And while Guardian had the whole different mechanics thing, I think Chaos pulled it off a little bit better. And I said I wasn't going to talk much about this fight, but I ended up talking about it for 5 bloody minutes. So let's move on to the next one. And this one is, well, this one I'm literally going to talk mainly about one mechanic because it's literally just one mechanic. I'm not even joking about it. I know I've said that about some of these fights, but this is a final tier fight, so there's spoilers for you, and it's one mechanic. And if that doesn't tip it off, then you're about to find out when the music plays. So yes. Goodbye, world. Yep, Final Omega. My least favourite final boss fight, but damn if that music is not amazing. Oof, it's really up there with my favourite tracks in this game. It's awesome. I've heard people call it boring, but I mean, what? I mean, well, because it's not a dance track like Brute Justice, it's so thematic appropriate with this game, it's not even funny. Brute Justice, as amazing as the song is just kind of there. It doesn't fit with anything else aside from Alexander, and it feels weird, which is a problem with Alexander in its entire run, but we're not going to talk about that. Anyway, you're probably wondering why I'm comparing it between Brute Justice and here, but that's probably because I had a staff member who used to do the exact same thing and kind of rubbed off on me there. Anyway, while I did say previously this fight is a one-trick pony, I do think that's a little unfair. Patch and Archival are a little tough for a little bit. They aren't exactly face rolly too much, as a tank maybe, or a healer. But TPS don't do fuck all, aside from maybe help them, which I definitely do, so don't think I don't. And I think this is a good time to bring it up. Not really a bad time to bring it up, whatever. All these fights are my clear videos, so they do not have my best play in them whatsoever. And as you can see with Chaos, I said DPSing was a bad strat, and we did DPS in on the clear video. They're clears. I'm really bad at clears apparently, and I've learned a lot of stuff from those clears to now. So take those videos not as me playing at my best. They're not guides. They're me just clearing the fights. I still think I have some sort of leeway to judge the fights in my opinion, but whatever. Random time to come out with it, but better time it is best as time is end time. Anyway, we all know the main mechanic of this fight though. Hello World 1 and 2. These mechanics are crazy, they're visually crazy, it's awesome. Like, you got blasts going over there, blasts going over there, boom bam boom, it's awesome. But it suffers a similar issue to Ultima Weapon in that anyone progging this will find this entire mechanic infinitely tougher than anyone using a guide, because think about it, in Ultima, anyone progging for the first time, they didn't know about the walk mechanic, but anyone using a guide completely skips the whole part of learning about the walk mechanic, so they don't have to learn how to deal with it. I know you could say that every fight is like this, where anyone using a guide has got it easier than anyone not using a guide. Well, no shit, but this is what I mean, is that they have to figure this out and what strats to use. When you have this strategy, this whole thing is super easy. All you have to do is remember what each debuff does, which admittedly DPS actually has probably the tougher job on that because there's 4 instead of 2, but that's, once you know what to do there, it's super easy, but figuring out what to do is the hard part. So when you have a guide, figuring out what to do is not a factor, because the guide tells you what to do. Only thing the guide I used didn't tell me to do was on Hello World 2 you had to wait a couple of seconds before moving in if you had the short or long stack, which fucked us up for ages. I don't know how it fucked us up for ages, but that's because we had to rely too much on a guide. Hopefully for 5.0 that won't be a thing, but doesn't look too likely. But we'll keep that out of the video. We're not paying for that video, we're keeping it in. Anyway, the main problem of Hello World 2 is the fact, what I just said is the strategy used for Hello World 1. You do that, and you do Hello World 2. The only difference is you have to wait a couple extra seconds before moving in a couple's cases. That's all the difference is, and that's a huge problem when your main mechanic is exactly the same both times. I don't think they intended it to be like that, and it's actually kind of sad because Hello World 2 should have been way tougher, but it's the exact same as Hello World 1, but a couple extra seconds of waiting and moving a little bit faster if you have the short stack or long stack as a DPS. And yeah, that's not something that should be a thing, I don't think, and that brings it down a lot. The Enrage, however, is a pretty damn tough heal check. I will admit the Enrage of this is probably the toughest Enrage of all of them from what I've seen for healing. I could be wrong because I do not heal Savage in any way. I don't think I've even healed fucking Alt-Right Savage, so there you go. But it looks damn tough. See, I'm not going to comment on the later fights because we haven't got there yet, but this one hits pretty damn hard for like 4 different times, and each time is tougher than the last. So it's not even just the heals, it's like the DPS and the tanks, they have to mitigate perfectly. They can't just all fling it out on the first one or the last one. And that's a good Enrage. Good Enrage there. I love the ones that are more soft and ragey, which we'll talk about soon enough with a good soft Enrage one, I think. It's funny as fuck, but you probably know what I'm talking about. So, while this fight may not be super interesting mechanically, it's visual. The visuals of this fight are amazing. If nothing else, Alphascape did amazing on the visuals. The entire Alphascape series, visually, is amazing. So, great job to the visual team who made this, because they did a fucking great job. I can't comment on the other fights because we haven't got there yet, but Chaos, the way the arena changes with each element in the background, is amazing. It's like, what the heck? I didn't think they'd think of that. It was awesome. And Medcart Armor, like, have anyone paid attention to the way he charges up his ultimate attack? It's awesome. It like pours black ether into his mouth or some shit. It's awesome. But mechanically, not too interesting. Visually, amazing. Music, amazing. So it's up there as my favourite fights this tier's number 6. Of course, out of 15 fights, that's pretty damn good. But because of the mechanics not being too interesting, I do have to drop out a couple of ranks of what I was initially going to put it as. But unfortunately, that's how it crumbles. And if you want me to explain the other mechanics, Patch is just a couple of moving around and breaking tethers. I don't remember the other names of the mechanics because they have like the similar names, but you know, the twisty fist things which one person needs to know and everyone else can follow them. So that's super easy. And the other one with the 3 tether lines, which Pugs and every static and Pug I've been in literally does not do this, and all they had to do to make it easier for them is literally just use your fire spots from M and F, and you would make that infinitely more easier. Everyone runs around like a headless chicken trying to find a safe spot in between the tethers that people have, and they end up clipping someone every other run, and I don't understand why they don't just use the fire spots from M and F. It's the most simple thing ever. But they don't, and they complain about when someone kills them, so whatever. I've tried telling people, but they don't listen to me. And the final mechanic is Archive All, and that is literally just Delta Attack from Neo XF, which again we've not talked about yet, so I won't talk about it much here, aside from the fact that it's just run to a spot while you're DPSing a thing and move out and move in. That's it. It's not as hard as it sounds. I actually think Archive Index Peripheral, I think, is the one with the tether lines, is harder, but it's my opinion. So, guess I'm weird in that regard. And the problem is that after Hello World 1 you have these set of mechanics, and then after Hello World 2 you have the exact same set of mechanics, and then in Rage, and it's like, okay, it's half a fight. What? That's a problem Neo XF falls into as well, but again, I'm talking about the future fights because I love them so much and I can't hold myself back. So let's just get into number 5. We're in the top 5 now. This one requires your brain to be working, or callouts to be working, I guess. And has awesome memory. So let's see what I'm talking about, which you probably already know because I say memory. Let's go. Aye.
Kefka, definitely the best of the 3 gatekeepers this tier. It's the only one that doesn't want to make me jump out my window every other pool. Oofed. Exdeath especially. Right, for starters, what I love about this fight is how it progresses, and the statue goes up, and the music changes. I might get more out of it because I played it from Final Fantasy VI, and this is ripped straight out of it, but I feel like it's really well translated in Final Fantasy XIV. In my opinion, it fits really well in this game. Probably the best translated out of all the fights in this entire expansion. Aside from the music and visuals being cool though, I really love the memorizing of the mechanics. You have these like 4 different things you have to do. You have to memorize if he's telling the truth, if he's lying, if you have to stack, if you spread. For example, at the start, you have a stack marker, but he could have question marks around them, which would mean you have to spread instead. Or you could have the spread marker, and you have question marks around them, which will mean you have to stack instead. But if it doesn't have the question marks, you do have to do what it listens. You have to just pay attention and actually look, which is awesome. Sure, you could just have someone call out, but that's boring. Who does that? Who does that? Probably a lot of people. Anyway, that's not the point. Also, the lasers, the AoE lasers and circles also follow this suit as well. Although it seems more binary, there's no really anything other than you're either in or you're out. But it's really cool. I also like how you have to stand in the middle of the cross, not the actual lines. So it requires a little bit more thought than just stand anywhere in the lines. So that's really good. Another good thing about this fight is that it's longer than Exdeath, shorter than Omega MNF. I feel like it has the perfect amount of runtime, and it doesn't outstay its welcome at all. And actually, it can die extremely fast with a good planning and good team comp, considering the last burst comes up right at the end. I've even managed to kill him practically before the 3rd fucking tower phase, which is absurd, but it can happen, and it's really cool that it can happen. But yes, it has a good time. Another thing I forgot to mention about the AoEs is that you probably think I would hate them because of the RNG. This is not the case. The reason why is because you can actually move the boss sometimes to get a little bit closer to some of these AoEs in pre-position, which allows you to continue hitting the boss without much thought or much worry about if you're going to be away from melee range or anything. So I actually think it's really well done in that regard. Yeah, I don't think all the time you can move it. I think in 3rd phase you can't move it at all. I guess technically it's 4th phase, but that sounds really weird. Oh well. But the best thing about this fight is that it does an amazing job teaching you for the final phase, which both other gatekeepers completely lacked. Like maybe Exdeath teaches you how to deal with Delta attack, which obviously we'll get to later, Neo Exdeath. But that's about it, there's nothing else to it. When you do this fight, all 3 towers do their mechanics separately on their own. However, in the next fight, they all come together, and you have to do mechanics all at once. I'm not going to get too much into it because we're not at God Kefka yet on the list, but I really like how it teaches you, and it actually just rewards you to pay attention if you're not looking at a guide, and just apply what you learned into a harder scenario. It fits really well, and I'm kind of surprised the other 2 fights didn't do it, especially Exdeath. But this fight definitely does it really well. At this point, no, we're bordering on talking on God Kefka at this point. So, I mean, we might as well get on with it soon, because apart from what I've said, it kind of just repeats. The three main mechanics are a wee knockback with stacks, which are pretty cool. This thing where you have to move in and out, but make sure you stand on each other, or the puddle gives you a damage down, which is really cool, but for some reason people have trouble with that one. I don't really know why. And the final one, which I think is probably my favourite, is the you both get tethered. They're all 8 people get tethered to the tower, but 4 people get tethered with the left side and 4 to the right side, and you have to see which side you're tethered to. and adjust accordingly. Like, I think the left side gets confused and the right side gets sleep, so the right side have to stand in the middle, while the left side get confused and walk towards the middle people to kick their ass. Which is bad, obviously. One thing I will say is the detection on the eye in that phase is really kind of bad. Like, there's been plenty of times I've looked straight at the eye and it wants you to look at it, but it hits me anyway, and it's just like, alright, well, fuck you too, game. Fuck you too. Thanks. That might be a problem on my latency, but I don't think that's true, because I'm just looking there the whole time. It's not like last second look, but the video won't show that because it did happen in the clear pool, but it happens sometimes. It's a little bit like the missiles in Guardian and the Ghosts in Phantom Train. It's not a maker, it's not a pure breaker, but it's a bit annoying in the long run. Anyway, like I said, we're bordering on talking on God Kefka at this point, so we might as well get on with it, because coincidentally, he is my fourth favourite fight, which lets this link in perfectly together. I really like it, and I wish all the other fights did it, but in the other way that would mean that my favourite fight might not be... Oh shit, that's spoilers, bye. So, I'll be honest here. The literal only reason this fight is not in number 3 is because of one thing. Soken, you're amazing at making music in this game. You rival Nobuo Uematsu, and anyone who's not played Final Fantasy 14, I don't know exactly why this is a YouTube video you're watching, but anyone who hasn't played it, you probably think I'm being sacrilegious for saying that, but he is really good. Anyway, he forgot one important thing when making a remix of this music. He forgot the Kefka laugh at the loop point. Oh, Soken, why? Don't tell me you think it would annoy us. We have now fall. That was really bad. Every time we wipe an Ultima weapon, why can't we get... That was also really bad. Joking aside, well, sort of, I do believe that the gap between this and number 3, in my opinion, are so small, so minuscule, that this one thing would have changed my decision and put it at number 3, because that laugh is awesome. Like, it might be a bit overdone, but like, oh, it's awesome, and I'm glad they at least put it in the game entirely, because, I don't know, you probably didn't hear, but when you first encounter Kefka in the cutscene, he does it, and it's every time you enter God Kefka and he does his wee blast at the start, it also makes that laugh. So at least it's there. Alright, fine. I'll give a little bit more constructive reasoning as to why this fight is a little lower than 3. And that's that the arena is too damn bright. I swear, after long pug sessions, cause trust me, I had to pug this entire tier and it was not fun. It was fun, but it was not fun. And after long sessions of trying to clear this fight, I'd actually get headaches due to the brightness. I don't know if that's just me or what, but sometimes I would actually get headaches due to just the overabundance of fucking yellow, like, oof. I'm not going to dock too much points off of it though, since 1, I am weird and apparently don't care about my personal health, and 2, it's faithful to the actual fight's background in the original Final Fantasy VI, so it makes sense why it's just yellow. And I'm not really going to just debate that. That's why it's like that. It just gives me a headache sometimes, and I don't have to do the fight much anymore, so meh. So we're going to go on to the fight itself. So I do like how this fight, compared to the other two final fights, doesn't have a proper midway loop. You could argue there's some repeat mechanics, yes, but it's not a midway loop like Final Omega where you do the exact same thing, just the exact same thing, just straight after, like Hello World 2, you do the exact same thing as you did after Hello World 1, nothing different. Not at least halfway through the fight. It does have one, but it's like at the last 25%, not the last half, so it's a little bit less annoying. And I will say though that this is definitely the easiest of the three final fights, like by far, or maybe not by far because Final Omega is kind of easy, but it's definitely the easiest to fight. And while I'm saying this, the entire Sigma Escape in general is easier than the entire Alpha, entire Delta, and hell, even Creator is obviously easier than the previous tiers from what I've been heard to believe, but the new generation, as I like to call it, is probably what you're best comparing these two. So yeah, but easy doesn't necessarily mean bad, because I mean clearly it's number fucking 4. I don't think it means bad. In this case, the fight is still fucking fun. It's a great fight. The main mechanic of this clown, because that's what we're going to get into now, because I'm really bad at transitioning, is his Forsaken moves. He uses 3 Forsakens, technically 4, but the last one is just 3 repeated, so like I said, he repeats the last 25% of his fight. Yeah. Forsaken 1 is kind of just a setup for Forsaken 3. You have these tower things, or circle things you have to stand in and kind of like explode your heads. Well, before that though, you have to be healed to full, which I've heard from healers, this is probably like a really hard part of the fight, because the time of healing, and if you don't heal to full in time, you're fucked, because not only do you have to heal to full, if he uses the move, he brings you down to 1 HP. If you're not at full health, you get a debuff which actually lasts too long for you to feasibly survive, which actually stops you from being healed. And since you're at 1 health and you have to explode your head, which obviously does damage, yeah, you can see where things go wrong. So the healers have to heal kind of twice there. It's fucking brutal from what I've heard. And yeah, aside from that, it's just exploding your heads twice and then a finisher. Forsaken 2, however, is widely considered by most people I've ever talked to that is the hardest of the 3, and while I don't think it's necessarily hard, it's definitely the hardest of the 3, and yes, and I think part of the reason why is because Forsaken 3 is actually just Forsaken, well, not even Forsaken, Kefka, the first part of the fight, just that, but in the different orders, you know, the whole tower things I mentioned last time, yeah, that, and it also has Forsaken 1 in it, so it's not like face roll easy, but it's things we've already seen before. Whereas Forsaken 2, you have to, well, I'm only going to mention melees here. While I do know roughly what the other people do, I don't know perfectly what they do, so I think it's fair that I just leave them out here and probably just look up a video or just watch my video of what they do, because yeah, either way, what the melee do is they have to kind of run around the boss in a circle, but they have to not just run really fast, they have to like bait the AoEs and then move, which we'll see kind of like in a future fight that we will talk about soon. But yeah, then they have to link up at north into the tower, where there will be a proximity AoE that then comes from that tower, because the range also have to go there, and then you have to run all the way down to the boss itself in the stack. Make sure you're in the stack far away from the proximity AoE, take the stack, get healed, because there's also going to be an Ultima straight after. Actually, not an Ultima, worse, a Light of Judgment. And that's just counting the DPS, like the tanks and healers have to do their own wee thing, which, let me tell you, if they don't do their thing right, you might as well just die, because, well, You not might as well just die, you will just die. So yeah. It's really, it's not too bad, but it's really overwhelming the first time you see it, at least from the DPS side there. And I touched on it a bit, but Forsaken 3 is basically just a mashup of all the tower phases in Kefka's fight, with Forsaken 1 mixed in. You have to has the confused thing, the sleep thing, the towers, the side to sides from the second tower, which by the way, that one is pretty cool because Kefka also does his wing attack, so you can't just face him north, because if he uses his right wing and the tower uses the left laser, you're dead. So you have to actually turn him to the right, or left I guess if you want, and there will be one quadrant safe. You basically, if you turn him left, then his right wing shines and the left laser shines on the tower, then that means you would have to go southeast, because that would be the only save point there. And yes, it's pretty cool that that is a thing that you have to do and you don't just tank him north. That I like that. So that's all the Forsakens basically. I didn't do a very good job explaining the third one, but I'm not here to explain the mechanics. I'm not a guide. I'm here to just give you my opinion on the actual fight itself. So in between Forsakens you have these wee cool mechanics, which I think they're not tough per se, but compared to Final Omega's Archive All, Index Archive Peripheral, they blow them out the water. Those are easy. This is Celestriad. You have to all the DPS split and have their fires go off to explode, and all the tanks and healers kind of stack together, and then you move in. It's just Delta attack in Neo Exdeath, which I will probably talk about more there because that came first, but it's still tougher than fucking Archive All's Delta attack, which is practically the exact same but with actual markers showing where to not overlap each other. Okay, whatever Omega, you're not supposed to give us more ability to see how to do the mechanic. Whatever, that was just a wee joke. A bad one, but a wee one. Anyway, there's also Trine. There are a couple of other things, but I'm only going to touch on the bigger-ish ones, and Trine is the last one I'm going to talk about here. There's two types of them. The small Trine, they will drop I believe it's 6 triangles around the arena, but they come in sets of 2. So you have 2 somewhere, and then 2 somewhere else land, and then finally another 2 land. You go to one of the third 2, and then move to one of the first 2 after they explode, and that's it. Okay, so there's barely anything. And big Trine, you either have to stand in the middle or run to the safe spot that is in the middle. They're both super easy, so I don't have much else to talk about. So yeah, and like I said, there's a 4th Forsaken, but it's just a repeat Forsaken. So yes, this about wraps up God Kefka here, and it's went on a little bit longer, but that's okay. I think we can finally enter the final 3. And let me tell you, number 2, number 3 and number 4, I really debated in which order I should put them, but number 1 is definitely set in stone. It's been set in stone since I fucking played it, but 2, 3 and 4, pretty tough one to choose, so you could easily switch any one of them out depending on my mood, and it wouldn't change much, so let's see you there. I know, you're probably wondering, what? Alicaness is not number 1 and 2 at the least? Yeah, I didn't steal that from John Tron. Well, like I said before, I debated a lot on how to position these 3. Honestly, it comes down to literally one thing between all 3 of these fights. The Laugh or Arena, whichever you prefer is more important for God Kefka. And what I'm about to come out here is that there is one tiny thing which actually I can't talk about now because it's technically the next fight which has the thing. This just doesn't have the thing. Anyway, yes, we'll speak about it soon. This fight is awesome. It's really great. It's fun as fuck, and I have no idea how anyone can even just say that this is a bad fight, because this is just not a bad fight, no matter what. The only way you can say this is a bad fight is that it isn't super hard, because it's got mechanics, it's not super easy, it tests you, it's fun, it doesn't have any boring long parts. It's just, I know subjectiveness and all, but I think objectively this is probably, even though number 2 or 1, I'm not going to spoil which one it is, has technically better in my opinion, this is probably objectively the best third fight of the entire expansion. I think maybe Cruise Chaser is better, but we're not talking about creator here, so yeah. And sure, we all hated those pug parties who just couldn't understand Animal Farm or couldn't understand Library Phase for whatever reason, but we cannot let that take away from what is honestly a really well designed fight and really fun. And I did think it was a bit disappointing that they did remove Savage Sand Phase, or not remove, they just didn't have the Sand Phase in normal mode and put it into Savage. They didn't do that, which is a bit sad, but I think what we got, which was like entirely 2 or 3 new phases, completely beats out having a Savage Sand Phase. Because honestly, what could they actually do for Sand Phase now that I think about it, apart from put random landmines there that don't make any sense. So yeah, I think we're fine on that front. And before anyone says, because we've got quite a bit through the clip now, this is a really bad run. Like, I didn't record the clear run here. This is just a run I found when I got a weekly clear in. There was such a bad run. I don't even know how bad I did, but like if you see the end of this fight, then yeah, it's crazy, but whatever. You can laugh at our incompetence on this fight. Anyway, so let's talk about some of these mechanics. So you have this plant phase, which all you really have to do effectively is break tethers, and sometimes you have to break tethers while mind controlled. It's pretty cool. You have to kill this ad thing, which you have to keep away from the main boss, otherwise it gets healed. But when the boss gets healed, they don't actually cause a wipe. And this is going to play into something which I think is true about this fight over Guardian, and that is that this fight is actually really forgiving. Despite the mechanics technically being harder than Guardian, this fight is really forgiving. So as you can see there, that was one of the things. Obviously on a clear run you're not going to want to have that healed, but it's not an instant wipe if it does, so I think that's pretty good. There's also Library Phase, which probably requires the most precision. You have to kind of like stand in the pads on the perfect corners and make sure you run properly, because if somebody doesn't do it right, you could actually end up fucking the other person over, which is actually really sad and not really nice. But again, a person dying there isn't the end of the world. There's an ad that hits pretty hard, and the heal check here is pretty tough from what I can tell, but there's not much else to it aside from some cool stack thing with the books and shit. Yeah. And finally, Animal Farm, as I said earlier, is a thing that people had trouble with, but honestly I'm not really sure why. All you have to do is get imped, toaded, or pegged, and you just have to dodge the other 2, which you don't have to do. So usually we have the healers get hit by whatever the first one is. It's completely random which order the boss uses, but let's say we use my order. The first is imped. You get imped if you... How do you get imped again? You get imped if you look at the boss. I'm keeping that cut in. You get imped if you look at the boss, so everybody has to look away from the boss aside from the healers. So then next is Toad, which would mean everybody except from the tanks has to be behind or the side of the boss, because a cone comes out the front to Toad, basically the exact same as normal. And Peg, all the DPS have to spread away while all the tanks and healers stack, because actually, if you don't realize this, but this thing, what happens is, if you're imped, you can be toaded, and if you're toaded, you can be pegged, and if you're pegged, you can be imped. Basically, you can just overwrite what one you have with something else, which is bad, because what happens straight after is kind of like the frogs in normal. just with those 3 things. You have to split people apart to make sure all the squares have got at least one of each of these types of animals inside them. I don't know why we call them animal farm, because let's be honest, who the fuck has a toad in a farm? Really? Who has a toad in a farm, or an imp? Whatever. So, I don't know why I had to say that. Whatever. And in final phase, it's just a bunch of the boss jumping around and you have to react to what she does. Jumps on the plants, you have to break tethers. Jumps on the normal, you have to spread around the boss because of the laser blasts. I don't even know if they're lasers. And if she jumps to the blue, you have to get on a blue. And yeah, it's really fun that you just have to react. It's honestly not intense and it's not too scripted either, it's just really fun. And compared to Guardian, like I said, the mechanics are harder, but if one person fucks up, then it ain't gonna insta-wipe you. Like, one person fucks up Dadaluma, good luck. So, I think in this case it's a better decision. I don't think in all cases you should have it like this, but in this case it's a better decision to have harder mechanics but more forgiving over easier mechanics but less forgiving. So overall, an amazing fight, and I don't have too much to say about it, but unfortunately it's not number 2. Actually, I wrote unfortunately when I meant to write fortunately. Yes, I'm reading off a script now. What? Anyway, it's not number 2, so unfortunately there, it's gonna have to stay back because there's one thing I like more about, not technically 2 things, but one is a little bit subjective. Well, they're both subjective, but the next fight is better, and you probably already know what it is, but whatever. Oh, yeah. The next fight is similar to Halagnasis, so there's your spoiler warning. Bye. Yeah, a lot of people probably hate me right now by putting this above Halagnasis, but unfortunately, guys, I don't really regret anything. This fight is just awesome. I just love how it looks. This is like the most visually awesome fight like in the game. Well, actually, not really, because the next fight I'm going to talk about, which you've already deduced what it is probably a little bit visually better in some cases. We'll see. Pantocrator 2 is so bloody awesome though. Like, you got lasers blasting off the side, you got fire, you got missiles. It's like, it's awesome, man. You gotta fucking just. I can't even say anymore, it's awesome. And its background actually kind of takes from Neo Exdeath, which is obviously my favourite fight, because, you know, process of elimination, I ain't even going to spoiler warning it at this point, you already know. I just love the visuals in this fight, they're so amazing. And honestly, this fight, I really love how it's scripted from beginning to the end. And yeah, I know, I've said I loved randomness in some fights, hate randomness in other fights, love scripted in some fights, and hate it in the others, but it just depends on the context. A fight like this, being scripted, is just awesome, it feels better, but considering we have fights which are practically just loops for final tier fights, this entire expansion, even Neo Exdeath, my favourite, falls victim to this trope that we apparently have now, which, as far as I can tell, has started from Neo Exdeath, because Alexander definitely didn't do that, and that was the start of this new generation of Savage. So I don't know why it came out, but it did. Like, Godkicker kinda did it, and Neo Exdeath did it, and Final Omega, as we have seen, definitely bloody did it, even more so than Neo Exdeath. But apparently they love loops so much, and it doesn't really detract from the fight too much if the rest of it is good. But in this case, if it had looped after Pantocrator 1 and just did Pantocrator 1 again, or just did Pantocrator 2 again or something, that would have been boring. But no, what they do instead is they actually use the fist mechanic in like 3 different ways, and really awesome. And the biggest thing, which I think is amazing, is they got rid of the stupid way the fists work than normal. the normal mode of this fight is literally like one of my least favourite normal modes ever. I fucking hate it. Those fists can go screw themselves. They're so bloody bad. Their hit detection is horrible on latency, which I've already talked about with ghosts and missiles and whatever. And they ruin parses, which is just like the most minor thing ever, but I'm going to say it anyway. Although when you upload to FFlogs, they actually cut it out anyway. But those stupid fists can go fuck off. Like, only the ones where you have to destroy with a stupid wee machine. I'm glad they got rid of that. I hate duty actions. They're so bland and boring. And you can think they add more to the fight, but they're just another OGCD to ruin the OGCDs you already have to weave in anyway. The only good thing is it doesn't take up space on the hotbar because it has its own button. And since I'm a PS4 player, that is definitely appreciated, as you can definitely tell. Any PS4 player will tell you that. Hotbar space is in high demand because we do not have much of it. We have about 32 or something. We have more obviously, but 32 buttons are about as comfortable as we can get it, unfortunately. Anyway, where was I? Talking about the stupid fists in normal mode. Well, the fists in Savage are actually different. You've got to make them blow each other up by colour coding them and stuff. Unfortunately, the last fists people just cheese with tank LV anyway. But the fact that it almost destroys most computers and my PS4, it's awesome. I'll give it that. There's more visuals. It's like a glitch. There you go. And he's like a robot. It's awesome. I don't know. I'm just coming up with shit now. This was not intentional. And it's funny because they made a glitch make a mechanic better than without a glitch. Well, not really, but I think that if they didn't have the glitch, it would have been worse for me, so I'm going to say it better. In the second fists, the big fists, it happens twice. The first time, 4 random people get picked, and the second time, 4 other people get picked. But for the longest time, people were just really confused how it worked, because every time in the same team comp, if you went in, it would always be the exact same of which 4 people get picked first and which 4 people get picked second. But the moment you go into another group, that could be different. You could just randomly get picked for fucking group 1 when you were group 2 in your other group, and it was like, what? I didn't change job or anything. What happened? Apparently it was supposed to pick based on randomness or something, but it ended up, I don't know, they said it in a fan fest. If I can find the source, I'll give it to you. But there you go, there was a glitch and they are not patched now because apparently that's how it's supposed to be. And if there's one thing I'll give Square Enix is that when people come up with different strategies, they don't immediately patch them out, as we've seen with Akill and MNF and this fight actually as well. So I'm getting a little bit away from the actual fight here when I say stuff like that, but all I really need to say is that the visuals themselves practically make this fight better than all the other ones before it. I'm not going to hold the normal one mode against it because that's just unfair, really. But what I will say is they kept the worst part from normal mode and put it into Savage mode, which Halicarnassus at least did not do, and that is level checker phase. Granted, they actually made a level checker phase a bit more entertaining and cool, but it's still the worst part of the fight. And now, with Echo on Dragoon, oh my god, it was already tight enough getting all your jumps in while doing the Strond phase. You really can't do that now. You kinda just have to either not use the Strond or just fucking not having the Strond for phase 3. So you're kinda fucked. Unless your team is unusually slow on killing the level checker, in which case, yeah, you might be fine. But if you're already struggling to get this jump, that last jump off, then it's going to be impossible now because 10% echo adds up. Unfortunately, that's just how it happens. And I'm not saying the Square Enix needs the forethought ahead like that, because part of the fun of going back into fights with higher gear and higher power is just seeing how easily you demolish it and what mechanics you can skip, at least to me. And it's fun killing level checker, and it'll be even funner when we unsync it and kill level checker before you even have to do tethers at some point. Okay, it's a bit unrealistic, but it'll be fun when it does happen. And another thing which obviously puts it against its other competitor that's not Halicarnassus is, like Halicarnassus, this fight is forgiven on deaths, aside from level checker phase, which I just mentioned, because if one person dies, you know, you're going to just get memory wiped or something and just walk off the edge, which is not very fun. You die. Unless you get rescued. I've seen it happen in normal mode, not in Savage, but yeah. Anyway, level checker phase is the worst part of the fight. Both Pantocrators are the best part of the fight because they're fun and they look amazing. And Starboard and Larboard are still here, although curiously when he upgrades, Starboard and Larboard get easier and less random, which honestly I don't get it, although I don't really know what else they could have done with these mechanics. They're just left and right cleaves when he turns, so I guess they did the best they could do. Well, it's still weird that his upgrade actually makes it easier, but it does make Flamethrower tougher because the Flamethrower adds a dot, and Flamethrower is ripped straight from fucking A3 Savage / normal, but probably Savage. Same with Ferrofluid and level checker. But some mechanics I'm okay with them repeating, and those ones work fine. They were in normal mode as well. Anyway, that's about all I have to say for this. I didn't go through all the mechanics like I did with some of the other fights, because I just wanted to talk casually for this one, and the video probably speaks for itself. And as you might be able to see, my clue for this on week 2 was very, very fucking close. If you don't see it in this video with me talking, you'll see it right at the end, because the tank just happened to die because they didn't get healed or shielded enough, and funnily enough, well, if they didn't die we probably would have killed it without it being this close, but because they died and the way that the enrage works, he raised and the dots managed to kill him while he was in the raise animation, so that was really nice. And I don't have audio from the video for it because I was on Discord and PS4 problems, you could probably already imagine. But let's just say we were really fucking hyped. So we're gonna move on to the final entry of this list, Neo Bloody Exdeath. So let's go. I love this fight, and I assure you it's only like 10% because I love XIV so much to begin with, and you know, Galuf dies and revenges and revenge and whatever, and yeah, it's only 10%. I mean, I'm not the greatest supporter of let's have fan service for the sake of fan service in this game, like this fight technically is. Though the fight is really good, the actual implementation story-wise is bad, but I might get about that later. Anyway, to start with, yes, I did a horrible on this pull on the video, and of course we cleared, because you only ever clear when you're going to record it and you're doing bad. So I prefaced this with like every entry on this list, or at least some of them, but you could probably already guess first clears are not perfect. This one just happened to be one of them. Unfortunately, I definitely obviously did better in future runs, improving and all that shit. Maybe not perfect because you could probably see my logs or whatever, but that's not the point of the video, is it? Just because I didn't do amazing doesn't mean I don't have an opinion, right? I'm only a toxic alias. Anyway, yeah, this fight is just awesome. It's awesome. It was the first Savage tier I beat before Echo, although I almost did it in Alexander, despite starting like 2 months before Echo even came out, so I said I was pretty good for my first tier there. But this one I beat pre-Echo and in Pugs, because college made me come on my static, which, to be honest, my static was actually kind of lagging behind there because I'd already beaten a Halicarnassus before them, but still. And yeah, that was my first step into becoming the toxic elitist I am now. Yeah. So, thank you, Neo Exdeath. Thank you. Anyway, a thing I never appreciated, but I'm going to talk about here because this is something I really like about this fight, is that unlike 90% of the other fights in this entire game, this is a tank fight. This isn't a healer fight, this isn't really a DPS check fight, this is a tank fight. Like, I might be wrong here, but I'm just saying this is my opinion, this is a tank fight, because healers obviously do have to do something like they have to do in every fight, but it's just like one mechanic, and it's Almagest and maybe Grand Cross Omega. They have to do their basic things. There's nothing super heavy healing like Hello World or fucking Forsaken and God Gifka. No, it's just Almagest with a heavy dot. Yeah, I'm really undermining that. Fuck Almagest on opener. They hate Dragoons. But this fight is a tank fight. I mean, all the common Grand Cross mechanics, all of the Grand Cross mechanics, because they're all common Grand Cross mechanics, all of them reset the aggro, and they're in the fight practically a minute apart from each other or something, maybe even less in some cases. They all reset aggro, but obviously, because I just say they were a minute between each other, Diversion isn't going to be up for every one of them. Neither is Refresh, Tactician, Lucid Dreaming. All those things aren't going to be up for all of them, so the tanks actually have to manage how they're going to get aggro back without losing too much DPS, and I think that's really good, because every other fight is a healer fight and it gets kind of stale, even if they need to kind of change that in a bit on how healing is handled. But this is not the purpose of the video, and I don't really have too much of a factual opinion on this, but yeah. And there's no auto attacks, which makes it that this is definitely a tank fight. There's no auto attacks, because if they had auto attacks, then people would be dying left, right and centre before the Aero 3s even come whacking them in the pus, because that's all that really matters. You gotta get the aggro for the Aero 3, and in some cases there's other mechanics. You got the Tank Buster, which I actually kind of forgot the name of, but he kind of like leans across and knocks you back or something. And then you got the Earth Shakers, which are left and right thingies, which sometimes in Pugs I actually used to see them target the healer all the time, and you would get a Paladin to cover them, which did help, but when I did that unsynced we did not do this, so I'm not sure if my memory is losing me or what there. But for the purposes of this, we're just going to say that's what people did. And you did used to feint it as well, which helped. And yeah, so I love the fact that this is a tank fight. And the Grand Cross mechanics themselves, because I just mentioned they exist, are actually pretty alright. They aren't too hard or anything, but they're alright. And they all have an RNG element to them, see, right? But this is where it comes perfect to me. All have an RNG element to them, but they all practically end up with the same kind of uptime. See, as a DPS, you have two things that can happen in Grand Cross Alpha. You have one where you get knocked back and you must go to your left or right side, and yeah, you have to run to them there. But you also have this other one where you don't get knocked back, and then you have to run to the left and right side. But the way that this counteracts is the people who don't get knocked back stand behind, and usually, maybe this is just bad pug strats, but usually they're out of melee range anyway, so they lose some damage there. But then having the knockback people be the one that are close to the boss means that they then lose the uptime once they're knocked back, and then you get the uptime when you're back. Anyway, I could be wrong there, because again, I've not done this fight in ages. These are just things I'm remembering off the top of my head, because sure, I love this fight. That's all I know. And I'm going to just say this is a wee personal thing, I'm just going to say this, but when I first did this fight, and I wasn't really used to Savage fights in Pugs without callouts or anything, I used to sing the Neo Exdeath theme to see if I had the left or right thing, because I've heard that they're blue and purple, which you could probably see on the video, but the things with the triangle and the octagon thing next to Neo Exdeath during Grand Cross Alpha and Delta and I think Omega, they are supposed to be blue and purple, but I'm colorblind and they look practically the exact same, so I'm just gonna say that they're right, but I have to decide from the triangle and the circle, which makes it a little bit tougher because I'm playing on a PS4, which TV's a bit further away, so the debuffs are smaller on my screen, so it's a bit tough there. And my first Savage experience with Pugs without callouts, because I doubt I would have got called that out anyway, but it was just a coping thing. I don't do it anymore, but it definitely helped, and it helps to fucking god the Neo XIV theme is like the best final boss theme in the entire series. Yes, fuck that, fuck Dancing Mad, fuck One Winged Angel, final battle, Neo Exdeath, that's where it's at. Sorry guys, that is blasphemous, I know, but there it is, right, I'm just hanging it right out there. It's the best final boss theme, and it was really catchy, and it helped me get past that mechanic so much, and I love it for that, because that mechanic is actually not even that bad. You just go to the opposite side of what you have. And yeah, just voicing it out helped me do it. So I really like that. Grand Cross Delta, well, it's a bit weird. You had to do something for it, but people just kind of ignored it, and you kind of just like stood on a Dorito. That's where I heard the term Dorito be used the most. I think I first heard it in Alaganasis with the thing that pigs you. But yeah, the Dorito, it's a triangle on the arena. Used to just stack people up there, and if you had the Beyond Death, you had to get hit, which actually blew my mind then, because I thought they actually meant you died, because people used to say you had to die on a mechanic, and I actually thought they meant you die, not go to 1 HP. So I was like, well, okay, I'll just jump off the edge. Just me, that doesn't work. Well, it does, I think, but it's not what you're supposed to do. And yeah, Grand Cross Delta is just either get hit, which I prefer getting hit because you don't have the acceleration bomb, or you have the acceleration bomb and you dodge the mechanic. So I think that's cool. And then Grand Cross Omega is awesome because actually Neo Exdeath goes untargetable for that, so you get to focus purely on the mechanics and what debuffs you have and which order you have to get hit by the boss or dodge the boss. And then because he's untargetable and you're a melee, you kind of forget that his lasers have a fucking knockback and you go off the bloody edge. That didn't happen to me at all. Not much. And in this video, you can probably tell Grand Cross Omega didn't go very well when we had the healer LB3, so yeah. And there's other mechanics. There's Meteor, which is just destroy 4 circles. There's Delta Attack, which is a tougher version of Final Omega's Delta Attack, which I touched on earlier, where you actually have to spread apart, explosions go off and you move back in fast, and more explosions go off, which funnily enough, unsynced now with Echo, you can get hit by more fires than you're supposed to, because we did it and our tank, who we were learning, used to move in too early the whole time, and he would just hit us, and I just never mentioned it because it wasn't killing us, and I was just like, okay guys, yeah, we'll do it this way, I guess. It works. Anyway, that's just some random stories I'm telling you now because I'm just having fun with this. So, yeah. Now the best part of this fight, it's not the music, it's not the mechanics really, and it's not the awesome Grand Cross mechanics, backgrounds or anything. No, this is Enrage. His Enrage is him taking a temper tantrum like a 5-year-old, and he starts smacking the arena like 16 times. It's fucking hilarious. I can tell you, man. They did not take that from Final Fantasy V. That was completely new for this game. Maybe Neverwhere, the name of the mechanic, was in Final Fantasy V. I just don't remember, but he definitely didn't punch the fucking ground like a 5-year-old who didn't get his fucking Teletubby toy. I don't know. It's awesome. I should hate it, but it's fucking hilarious. And Final Fantasy V is the funny game, so I'll take it. It was awesome. They need more Enrages like that. Obviously, it wasn't his pure Enrage. He did have a final blast, which was Almagest, but soft Enrage. Yeah, you could die from it. Every time he smacked the arena, it got tougher, but it was still funny. I love it so much. And as much as I dislike how they implemented these fights story-wise, they did an amazing job translating the mechanics over. Like, they made compromises where they had to, without destroying the source material's identity in like every single one of these fights. They did that. Even Demon Shadownook, I'll say they did that, which is certainly more than I can say, but they did with a certain other divisive piece of content named after a colour. Plumage. Oh, damn. Oh, that must have been what the old woman who swallowed a fly sounded like. Why the fuck did I come up with that fucking reference? What the hell was that? Anyway, I'm done gushing with this fight. This fight is just awesome. You can watch the video of me sucking on it, but it's amazing. And I can see why people might not like it, but I just think it's great, and I hope in 5.0 we get more savages that are tougher than these savages we got here, because for the most part they were relatively easy. And yeah, I'm not gonna go into some weird things I would say in some other settings because I don't want to piss too many people, as the Halknassus thing might have already pissed off people enough. Or the MNF thing. Yeah. So, here's to 5.0 being a good race tier. And it's probably based off of Final Fantasy VIII. So, thank you for watching this video. This was my first really proper video that I'd even done some amount of editing on, which you could probably guess isn't the best job. Mic quality isn't the most amazing. Script might not be the best because it wasn't really a script, it was more of a primer and a reminder. What does that mean? And it probably wasn't the most entertaining video. Maybe it was towards the end because I started lightening up a bit. But you know what? I had fun making it. And if anyone does watch this video, be sure to, like I said at the beginning, leave your list in the bottom. See what you agree and disagree. Maybe you can help me with some things such as tanks and healer perspective, which I am very clearly not very versed in most fights, aside from like Chaos Savage, because it's like the only one I've done as a tank, and I've not done a single Savage as a healer. But yeah, it was a fun ride, and hope to make more of these lists if people enjoying them. Be sure to check me out on Twitch. I'll link all this stuff in the description. There's Twitch, which I stream on pretty regularly. You can see me raiding on Savage, Ultimate, whatever, maybe Seiryu farms. Okay, I don't know why I specified Seiryu, but whatever. Farms of things, Baldesian Arsenal, whatever. We'll see. 5.0 obviously will be a thing. And Instagram, you can see some pictures of things I obtain, and that also alerts you when I'm streaming. Twitter, which also alerts you when I'm streaming. And I also might post things there when I actually have a follower or two. Oh, self-depreciating humor is the best. It's also the worst. Anyway, you can check me out on all of those, and obviously YouTube because I'm here. So yeah, be sure to like the video if you like it. Dislike the video if you dislike it, because that's probably what I'll see the most of. But that's it. Subscribe if you wish. Don't blame me if you don't. Why am I saying it like this? Because, honestly, a lot of the most common YouTubers now aren't so humble with how they say their stuff. And I like talking how I talk. So, enjoy your day. Enjoy your night. And most importantly, enjoy your chicken nuggets. Bye-bye.